Greetings everyone, and as you can see I am here today with our friend Josie, who I got motivated to take a look at after having broken down Fahkumram. I thought that the characters would be very similar, and I wasn't totally wrong. They are definitely very similar. Understanding one would definitely help you understand the other. However, this is not a Fahkumram video. I'm going to be referencing him a bit. I'm going to be focusing on Josie, obviously, but this is not a Fahkumram video. If you're interested in that, I will link my Fahkumram video somewhere. I'm sure you can find it. I'm going to do this likely in two phases as I do usually, generals and specifics. Most people, according to what I see, end up just watching the generals and they don't bother with the specifics. I definitely advise you to watch the specifics video, but that's more of an incentive for me to cram the most important information in the generals video, which is going to be likely this one. Okay, so just a little bit of a recap on Fahkumram, because again, if you come here from having watched that first, this is going to be a little bit of a refresher course, and it's going to help you understand Josie. Fahkumram is, to put it shortly, a plus on block beast. He has a lot of range and he has a lot of abusable plus on block attacks that he can access from the neutral, both mid and high, which give him fantastic plus frames. He's very wall centric, and if you take him to a wall-less stage, he really suffers, He pays the price for his abusable plus on block attacks that I said. Like I said, by having absolutely crappy lows, he just has one of the worst lows in the business, according to what I saw, and he leaves himself very open to counter hits. And he has a weak side where if you sidestep to his left, he's going to almost get blown up if you know what you're doing. If you force his weaker moves out of him, sidestepping left is going to destroy him, unless of course the Fahkumram player is very good and he knows how to work around that, similar to how Mishimas should be doing mind games in order to stop you from sidestepping left. But whatever, I digress. The Josie formula, to just do a super short recap, she does something different. She does have range, but not as good as Fahkumram, so you could space her out. It is possible. She doesn't have as much reach on her homings compared to him, but in exchange for that, they're going to be super safe. She has amazing homing moves. This is going to really bleed into the point that I'm going to make, that I don't advise you to step this character as much compared to Fahkumram at all. She's also a little bit wall-centric. This wall splats, as you can see, it's also 1+2 break, and it's the only command grab that she has. She's a fantastic punisher. She has 10 frames. She has wall standing 13, which is very rare in this game, of course. But there's going to be a very important point regarding this wall standing 13 that's going to make it even more of a trouble. She has every mid launcher under the sun. I'm going to talk about that, and she has amazing lows. This is the most important tool that that I want you to take away from this video. She has this. See that down 4 there? It's +1 on hit, so it's not a negative on hit low. It's 15 frames quick, so good luck reacting to that. Well, she does leave herself open to counter hit, but it's 15 frames, and on block, -10. Now that's a low. If you want to talk lows, that's the best low in the business, almost. I don't know if there are characters that have better, if there is a better low than this, it's not going to be by much. Now again, the same weakness, she can be counter hit out of it, but you're not going to be chugging out counter hits as much against this character, I believe. She has a lot of cheeky ways to get around that. I'm going to shortly touch on that in this video, which is not the specifics. So her lows are amazing. I'm not going to go over them all in this generals video, but I advise you to low parry. Do not low block. Generally, you're not going to get much from low blocking against this character. Not all her lows are -10. This is the only one that's -10, I believe. But the others are going to be -12, -13. Unless you're playing Josie herself or Kazi or something similar, you're not going to get much out of that. All you're going to get, in this case it's not going to even happen, but all you're going to get is a wall standing 4, which is not much. This is not going to turn the tide in your favor. So my advice is, if you're going to defend, low parry, do not low block. okay? This is going to apply to almost all of her lows. She has no reason to go for her launch punishable lows if the Josie player knows what they're doing. Second point is, since this is the generals again, she has every normal hit launcher under the sun. She has a down forward 2, which is 15 frames, and of course launches crouches is minus 13. She has a hop kick, which is 15 frames, launches crouches minus 13. And she has an orbital with all 3 versions, aggressive, neutral, and defensive. What I want to show here shortly is, even on her neutral orbital, it clips sidestep right. You have to sidestep block. Sidestep block is not impossible against her, but don't get super kind of like wise with sidesteps. There's going to be other reasons for that, but just keep this in mind. Like, this is going to be the side that people are going to advise you to step to in the neutral, or at least I am going to advise you, not really, but to step to in the neutral. But just remember, her orbital clips you, okay? So you could get launched. So that's not a very, like, particularly safe sidestep. But her down forward 2, of course, tracks to that side. Not that much, but that doesn't matter. So she has a lot of normal hit launchers, the only safe one of which is this orbital, and it's minus 9 on block. If I could show this here, minus 9, and it's 28 frames. So it's not the best orbital in the business, but still, it's a safe launcher. She is blessed with a 13 frame while standing, like I said, and her punishment overall is fantastic. That's a 13 frame while standing, the second hit of which is a high, as you can see, so you can duck it. But on its own, if you see there before she does the sway, just to like avoid me having to record this again, it's minus 13. So you should theoretically punish with a 12 frame punisher. Problem is, she can complicate things by going into sway. And that's a problem. Because if I block the second hit and I attempt to retaliate, as you can see, the first hit whiffs. And she can block the second hit of that actually if she just holds back and punish me for my punisher. She even has, if she goes like super aggressive with this, I hope I get it on my first try, like that for example. Out of sway she has 2 options, a high and a mid, both of which are counter hit launchers. So if she goes for that, you can counter hit her, okay? But if you're kind of like slow and you try to retaliate with something like, let's say, a hop kick is not really like the best option here. What could I show? She can counter hit you, okay? So the short version of that is, I don't really care much about these options, like for that, for example, if she goes all the way, she's punishable. On the high, she's not punishable. But just keep in mind that just this concept alone, where she can make your punisher whiff by just going into sway, you have to keep that into consideration. This is why you sadly have to duck the second hit. And don't be super greedy with this because she can block that. Just retaliate with a while standing 4. I could kind of like advise you to do that if the Josie you're facing is kind of like abusing that stuff. And there is a general rule when it comes to punishing her, which is a lot of her knees, for example, like this knee, this is minus 11, I believe. This is also minus 11. This, I'm not sure, I kind of like forgot the notations, but whenever she does a knee from a string, it's going to be punishable. Whenever she does an elbow or like a gut punch, something like this, she's going to be punishable, with very few exceptions. For example, if the knee is done, like I said, if it's done from a string, it's going to be punishable. If she, if I could find it here, where is that move? If she does it from a cancel like this, then yeah, it is going to be safe. And she doesn't have that much of those compared to Fakumram. But if you see her twitch like that, then yeah, the knee she's going to do is going to be safe. But outside from that, the knee is going to be punishable. And if the knee is done from neutral, record, this is safe, this is safe, even this wall standing 3 is safe. So knees done from neutral are safe. this is kind of like done from neutral, but it's 2 and it's going to be punishable. Generally, a lot of her knees are punishable. Very few of them evade that rule, especially the ones done from neutral are going to be safe. But outside of that, a lot of them are going to be punishable again. And the same goes for almost any attack she does with her right hand. If it's not from neutral, this is a launcher, so you definitely should be kind of like recognizing that. But this is punishable. Switch stance, no, this is safe. But crouch dash, this is punishable. A lot of like gut punches and hooks and like elbows she does with her right hand are punishable. The exceptions are switch stance, and I believe that's it. So the general rule is punish knees and punish right hooks and elbows. With that, I'm going to transition over to the second section and finish the generals video kind of like quickly. I'm willing to, or I want to kind of like talk about her stances, which are going to be important enough to include them in the generals video. The first and least complex is the back sway, which I showed that she can access off of her while standing 13 frame to kind of like complicate your punish on that. Off of this, she has a high, which is a normal hit launcher and it's safe, and a mid, which is a counter hit launcher and is punishable. Okay? That's not like the usual way these things go, but whatever. And she can cancel this into crouch dash. Okay? And the options out of crouch dash are the following. Ignoring the first kick, that's the crouch dash that she gets. First option is high high, and it's just a knockdown, it tail spins in combos, and it's safe. You can duck the second head, but whatever. Second option is this huge haymaker, which is a launcher, and it follows the rule that I showed you, where almost anything she does with her right hand is going to be punishable, and it's minus 14. Okay? This low, which I'm sure you've eaten quite so many times online, again, this is minus 13 on block. I advise you to low parry it when you smell it. But she gets this. And the final option is going to be a huge kind of like wind up, this hammer kind of like hook with her right hand, and it's obviously plus on block. Okay? This gives you enough time definitely to interrupt, float, whatever. But the thing is, what I advise you to do against this, like the thing that I must tell you about this is that all the options are sidewalkable to the left. Okay? Now, knowing full well that I just told you, I believe, that I don't really advise you to sidestep this character as much, this is going to be important. Why? Because the second thing she has is the switch stance, and this is going to kind of like complicate matters to us. So just give me a second to record some options and come back. So the thing that we're going to have to pay almost the most attention to is her switch stance, because it kind of like complicates the situation for us. Switch stance for her is kind of like unique. Let me explain. This Armor King is not a stance heavy character, but usually stances are accessed in one of two ways. Either raw, like this, if I do down 2+3 or down 1+4 with Armor King, I get the same thing, which is his shadow step. I have other options to enter this, which is, for example, off of his forward 4-3. I can do forward 4-3 and hold down, and I access the stance immediately after the attack. With Josie, she can do this, which is like access the stance after the attack, but she cannot do the raw version when it comes to switch. And that's what makes it unique. The other thing about it that makes it kind of like, well, not really unique, but like the thing that ties into Fakurmam. Remember when I talked about him, I said that he has extensions off of his Magic 4, which again Namco lists as duplicates in the move list because they still structure their move lists archaically. But with Fakurmam, he can do 4 and go into this extension. For example, like what is it, like 4-3, for example. He can do 4-3. He can do 1-2-4 and then 3. He can do 2-4 and then 3, and he can do down 3-4 and then 3. So these are the exact same options on her, with one exception, where all of these are highs. This is high. This is high. This is high. See how she like puts her foot down? That's switch stance. And she can't access it raw. She has to do an attack into it. But the only caveat is that the raw version almost is down forward 4 and it's a mid. So everything is a high into switch except down forward 4, which is a mid. So that's the first thing. The options out of switch themselves are the following. The one which is a high, but it's a counter hit launcher. Okay? And this is going to trade with 10 frame jabs. Trade, but it's obviously a trade in her favor because she gets a launch and you get a stupid jab, okay? But since it's a high, I can dig jab. Interestingly enough, when I test this with King, she counter hits me out of my dig jab, indicating that there are differences between dig jabs in this game, so you must check if your character can dig jab her out of this specific option. Second thing is this mid, which is one of the rare exceptions to a thing she does with her right hand that is safe, like I said. And this is again a counter hit launcher. But this thankfully is interruptible. You can interrupt it with 12, you can interrupt it with definitely 10, and you can interrupt it with, again, a crouch jab. Third option is this low, which I'm sure you've eaten quite so many times. Remember, it's -1 on hit, so it's not advantageous for her, but it is homing. So this is meant to stop you from stepping. And 10 frame interrupts, dig jab interrupts. Final option is, so far, dig jab interrupts everything, right? A standing jab trades with the first option. Final thing is this wall bounce, which is a huge jumping mid, okay? And it's safe, of course. Now this, you can float with a jab, but if you try a dig jab, she jumps over it and launches you. Now, I wish things were this simple, because then I would tell you, you know what? 90% of the time you're not going to have your back to the wall. Just dig jab interrupts her every time if your character has a dig jab that crouches immediately. The problem with that is the following option. If I could record it here. Sorry, that didn't count. Now you see there I cancelled into a crouch dash, and let me show you a magic trick. See how that dig jab just like, this is so rude. I hate when they do this. If you don't want me to dig jab her out of this, like make it obvious with frames, make it obvious with something. Don't make this. Look at this. Look how his arm is going through her. They're meaning to say that she crouches under your dig jab, but this is just ridiculous because you can catch her with lows here. But this is what complicates the situation. Having an 11 frame doesn't make it that much better. I tried it with King and she could still do this to him, albeit a little bit less consistently. But this is what makes, and of course she's going to crouch under jabs, that's for sure. That is the problem with Switch. This is why I'm going to tell you to do one of two things. You can't interrupt it, okay? Interrupting it is risky. You're going to have to do one of two things. Either sidestep left even out of Switch, which depending on your character, for example, Armor King here can, but for some reason when I tested it with King, he could not. You can do this here, but it's going to catch you because she has good tracking on that. I believe maybe a sidewalk here. No, she still catches you. And, of course, the cheeky low. I would advise you to take these two over the others. This is going to sway kind of like the risk-reward in your favor, because if you try to get wise with interrupts, with jabs, you're going to have a bad day. So this is kind of like the overall summary. I would advise you to not interrupt her out of switch stance and instead understanding this kind of like situation. Maybe you face a Josie player that does not understand the situation as much. Maybe he doesn't know that he can crush through your dick jab with his crouch dash. So overall understanding the situation is going to be more beneficial to you, and that's sadly the best I could do for you in this kind of like switch stance, crouch dash situation. When it comes to kind of like poking, what I would advise is the following. Short version is don't step. But allow me to like a little bit explain. The poke that she's going to be like coveting the most is her standing 3. This is 13 frames and this is her equivalent of a down forward 1. She has kind of like stuff off of this. She has this 3-2, which is punishable, but she can transition into crouch dash. She has other stuff. But what I'm most concerned with for the purpose of this instance is that it is, come on, steppable in both directions, okay? Thing is, the down forward 4 we talked about, it tracks left. Okay, so you have to sidestep it right. And admittedly, the quote-unquote pokes that she uses to cover her right side, this is a down forward one and it's 16 frames. She has extensions off of this, but none of which are low, unless she manually cancels into crouch dash yet again. But this is going to be what tracks to this side and is going to whiff if I step to the other. Come on. Like that. And she has this forward 3, which doesn't have any extensions. It has a little bit better tracking because it clips kind of like sidestep left a little bit more consistently, not in this instance, but it is 18 frames at -3 on block. Thing is, if I were a Josie player, I wouldn't bother with any of that. You know why? Because I have one of the best kind of like homie moves in the business. This is 3+4, no execution needed, 16 frames quick, super fast. And it's -9. Admittedly, of course, it is duckable, but as with everything, counter hit launcher. What other things do we have? This is back 3. This is not going to be the most amazing thing, but this is going to be mid. It's 22, not super awesome, but this gives her ballerina stun, and the star of the show is this move. Admittedly, it's done with forward, but it's 16 frames quick, -9 on block and mid, and counter hit launcher. If I had this move, I wouldn't bother with poking with down forward 4. I would use down forward 4 for the switch stance mix-ups. But there is no reason for her to do her forward 3, her down forward 1. Why ever do those? Just do this. So this is why up close, I'm not going to tell you the same thing I told you about Fakumram. Don't step. Up close, fight this character 2D. Try to outpoke her, try to kind of like be patient, keep blocking, and try to fish for low parries. But if you're far away, she doesn't have that kind of like long-range combat stepping beast that Fakumram has in his moves. Therefore, you could kind of like keep your distance. Maybe kind of like play the range game with her if you have CD1 from Armor King, something like that. But you could like breathe easy when you're far away from her. She doesn't have a lot to combat you stepping here. She has to do it like manually, like dash up, stop, and then do something, for example, like old school. But up close, please do not get wise with sidesteps all that much. If you're going to sidestep something, step out of strings, step out of her stances, and if you do so to the left. But in the neutral, I wouldn't advise you to step all that much, especially to the left, because her down forward 4 is going to catch you, and she's going to do down forward 4 a lot. So I believe this is going to cut it for this general's video. I'm not going to rant on that much longer. Quick recap, low parry please, don't low block, don't step as much, especially up close. Maybe keep your distance, that's not a very bad idea. Keep in mind that she has a 13 frame while standing that she can cancel into backsway, so keep mindful of that. Punish knees, punish right elbows. Be careful about her punishment is quite good. If you're playing a Josie that's abusing crouch dash, sidewalk left. And be careful of that wall splatting 1+2 command grab or like break that she has or throw she has at the wall. And I believe for the generals that's going to be it. I do advise you to check the specifics video, although most of you, the way I see it, do not. Maybe it makes a little bit sense depending on where you are, kind of like in the Tekken mindset, whether you want to know everything, whether you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to forget this stuff shortly anyway. But I do kind of like generally advise you to check that video out because it's going to contain a lot of stuff that I just could not find the time to put in this one. That being said, I thank you all very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.